Okay, let's dive into what is, no exaggeration, one of the biggest scientific breakthroughs of our lifetime. We're talking about a technology that lets us edit the very source code of life. It's called CRISPR. Now, that question, what if we could rewrite the code of life? It sounds like something straight out of a movie, right? But here's the thing. It's not science fiction anymore. What if I told you that we can? That right now we have a tool that could potentially cure genetic diseases, totally change our food supply, and, well, change our entire future. And look, this isn't some far-off hypothetical thing. This is a revolution that's happening quietly in labs all over the world, right now. And it's all because of one discovery that has completely turned the life sciences on its head. And just so you know, we're not talking about some fringe science here. This is the real deal. This discovery was so huge, so significant, that the scientists who pioneered it, Emmanuel Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna, won the Nobel Prize for it in 2020. I mean, that's about as big a stamp of approval as you can get, and it really tells you just how much of a game changer this is. So, what is this thing? What are these genetic scissors everyone talks about? Well, and this is the really cool part, we didn't invent them. Not from scratch anyway. We actually found them in nature. All right, the name. CRISPR. It sounds super complicated, and yeah, the full name is a real mouthful. Clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. But don't worry about that. All you need to know is that the name is basically a description of these weird, repeating patterns that scientists kept seeing in the DNA of bacteria. And it turns out those weird patterns were actually part of something amazing, a super ancient, super clever immune system. See, bacteria use CRISPR to fight off viruses. It's like this. They grab a little piece of DNA from an invading virus, kind of like taking a mugshot, and they store it. They create this whole most wanted list. So if that same virus ever dares to show up again, the bacterium is ready. It recognizes the bad guy and boom, cuts it up. You know, what's absolutely wild is just how fast this all happened. The whole journey from, hey, look at this weird thing in bacteria, to a world-changing tool, it was just astonishingly quick. Think about it. In 2005, they find the Cas9 protein. That's the scissors part. By 2012, Dunant and Charpentier figure out how to program it. And just 8 years later, they've got a Nobel Prize in their hands. I mean, in the world of science, that is light speed. Okay, so how do we use it? That's the key question, right? And it's actually beautiful in its simplicity. It's basically a three-step dance. Step 1, find. Scientists create something called a guide RNA. Think of it like a biological GPS coordinate that you plug in. It hones in on the exact sequence of DNA you want to target. Step 2, cut. Once the guide finds its spot, the Cas9 enzyme comes in. Those are the molecular scissors, and it makes a clean, precise cut right through the DNA. And finally, step 3, repair. Now, the cell naturally wants to fix that cut. Its own repair crew shows up, and that's where the magic happens. Scientists can sneak in a new piece of DNA, or just let the cell repair itself in a way that deletes the old gene. Find, cut, repair. It's just so elegant. And because this process is so simple, so precise, and so cheap, it's not just a cool idea anymore. It has kicked off an absolute revolution. We're seeing it jump from the lab into the real world at a speed that is just breathtaking. You can feel the impact of this everywhere, but man, nowhere is the potential bigger or more personal than in medicine. I mean, for the first time ever, the idea of going in and fixing the faulty genes that cause these awful inherited diseases, that's moving from a dream into an actual reality. And let me be clear, this is not just theory. We have the first ever CRISPR-based drug called Keshgivi that is approved and being used right now to treat these terrible blood disorders like sickle cell. Scientists are also using CRISPR to basically soup up our own immune cells, turning them into better cancer fighters. There are even clinical trials trying to cure a form of inherited blindness, and the list just keeps growing. They're going after HIV, Huntington's, muscular dystrophy. It's incredible. But this whole revolution, it doesn't stop at our own bodies. The very same tool that can fix our genes is now being pointed at how we grow our food. And the implications for the future of our planet, they're massive. And this just shows you how versatile CRISPR is. For instance, in Japan, you can walk into a store and buy the very first CRISPR-edited food. It's a tomato that's been tweaked to have more of a healthy nutrient. But that's just the start. All over the world, scientists are creating crops that can survive droughts, that can fight off pests all on their own, which could mean way fewer pesticides. They're making staple foods like rice and wheat more nutritious. When you think about feeding a growing planet, this is a really, really big deal. Okay, but let's be real. A tool this powerful, a tool that can literally rewrite the code of life? It was never going to be that simple, was it? With this incredible power comes some equally incredible and very complicated challenges and controversies. And we're talking about challenges on every front. There are technical hurdles, massive legal battles, and of course, some of the deepest ethical questions we've ever had to face. It's forcing us to ask, who gets to use this and how? So first up, the technical risk. Look, the system is incredibly precise, but it's not 100% perfect. Not yet. The big worry is something called off-target effects. That's when the scissors accidentally cut the DNA in the wrong spot. And you can imagine, a random snip in your genetic code could have some serious, totally unpredictable consequences. It's why making this system even safer and more precise is priority number one for researchers. Then, of course, there's the money. A lot of money. The question of who owns the patent for CRISPR has sparked this just brutal, multi-billion-dollar war that's been raging for a decade. On one side, you have the Nobel winners, Doudna and Charpentier's group. On the other, the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. It's a massive legal slugfest, and it really shines a light on the huge commercial stakes and just how complicated it gets when you ask who owns a discovery that could change the world. But without a doubt, the biggest, thorniest questions are the ethical ones. This quote here is from a group of top scientists way back in 2015. They basically called for a timeout, a moratorium, on making any changes to human DNA that could be passed down to our kids and grandkids. It was the scientific community itself saying, whoa, hang on a second, we need to pump the brakes and talk about this. Seriously. And that conversation got very real, very fast. In 2018, the world was shocked when a scientist in China announced he'd done it. He'd used CRISPR to edit the genes of human embryos, which resulted in the birth of twin girls. Now, his work was condemned by almost everyone, but the damage was done. The genie was out of the bottle. Suddenly, the designer baby question wasn't a hypothetical anymore. It was real. And it leaves us with this massive question. Where do we draw the line? Where does curing a disease end and trying to enhance a person begin? So, after all that, where does this leave us? What does it all mean for you and me, standing right here, right now, at the very beginning of this new genetic age? Here's the bottom line. CRISPR isn't just another cool gadget for the lab. It is a fundamental shift in our relationship with life itself. I want you to really think about this. For the first time in the 4 billion-year history of life on this planet, one species, us, now has the power to directly, deliberately, edit its own evolution. And not just our own, but the code of every other living thing too. That is an almost unimaginable amount of power, and it puts an enormous responsibility squarely on our shoulders. We are literally holding the pen that can rewrite the next chapter in the story of life. The only question left is, what are we going to write?